British Iranians Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe and Anousheh Ashuri heading to... this is a moving moment because these are people who have been detained for some time. So we're hearing that Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe and Anousheh Ashuri are heading to the airport in Tehran to leave the country.
Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe has been released from prison. That's good for her and her family. But why was she in prison in Iran? Why would Iran accuse an Iranian woman with a British citizenship of spying when she was just on holiday visiting her family, wasn't she? Well, maybe Boris Johnson gave the game away when he said that she was teaching media.
My point was that I disagreed with the Iranian view that training journalists was a crime. Not that I wanted to lend any credence to Iranian allegations that Mrs. Zaghari-Ratcliffe had been engaged in such activity.
What sort of media would a British citizen in Iran be teaching, possibly? Channels like the BBC and other Western channels push a regime change narrative in Iran. There's even an Iranian language channel, BBC Persia, that pushes for regime change. So you can understand why the Iranian regime might be resistant to people propagating ideas of changing the regime. And look what regime change did in the neighbouring countries of Iraq, of Afghanistan, of recently in Libya, almost in Syria. And regime change happened in Iran not so long ago, when a democratically elected Prime Minister, Dr. Mossadegh, was ousted in the 1950s just for daring to nationalise his country's own resources, namely oil, and they got rid of him and replaced him with a brutal Western puppet. And the reason why you have a brutal anti-Western regime in Iran at the moment is a reaction to the brutal pro-Western puppet that was installed in the 1950s when the Shah was installed by Britain and America. So you can understand the mistrust that the Iranians have towards the West, Britain and their greatest ally, America, who shot down an Iranian passenger jet without so much as an apology, who have military bases in every country dotted around Iran with weapons pointed towards them. And America's greatest ally in the Middle East regularly assassinates Iranian scientists. So you can understand the mistrust felt by the regime in Tehran, who are under threat of regime change at any given moment. But also around the time that Dr. Mossadegh was replaced by the Shah, the British also did a deal with Iran where they sold them a few hundred tanks, military tanks. And then, as the regime change happened, they cut and run and never provided the goods. And ever since then, Iran has been demanding their money back. And Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe's husband actually believes that his wife was a bargaining chip for this money that Iran have been trying to get back. And in fact, now the regime in Iran is claiming that that money has been paid, and now Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe is free to go. That would suggest that maybe she was just a bargaining chip. And it's very unfortunate, very unfair that an innocent woman, only teaching media, could be caught up in a situation like this. But it's interesting that her husband, who even went on hunger strike so that his government would do more to free her, seemed to be aware of what was going on. And you can understand why the UK government might be reluctant to dig up the past and acknowledge the debts that they owe places like Iran and other countries around the world where they've gone and interfered with governments, and likewise their greatest ally, America, who are the same, only even worse. So congratulations to the family. You've got your mum back, you've got your wife back, and let's hope no more innocent people have to suffer the consequences of the Western powers' imperialism and regime change agenda.